What's up, friends? You're listening to another podcast of Will's Take on Sports. I am Will Walker, the host, the AKA self-proclaimed greatest sports guru ever. And today we're going to recap most of the things that happened on Championship Saturday. Also, what happened on Friday night is Washington was able to capture the Pac-12 or Pac-16, whatever they call it. I said they would do that at the beginning of the season. Didn't think it would be a 9-3 record. I actually thought that team would be going to the playoffs, but they're not. But anyway, going to recap most of the great things that happened on Championship Sunday in college football for conference championships. Going to preview the NFL. Before I get into all that, let me just say real quick that Tyson Fury fight was really, the Wilder Fury fight was pretty interesting, to say the least. Fury really, he really took it to Wilder, was able to slip some punches early on. Wilder did catch him and knock him down twice. That fight ended in a draw. I know that a lot of people, including myself, think Tyson Fury did win that match, but hey, it was called a draw. What's wrong with boxing? Can they just pick a winner? We had that in the first fight with Triple G and Canelo Alvarez, and now another big time fight on pay-per-view with, I guess you could say one of the heavyweight champions, Deontay Wilder. Again, Fury was awesome, man. He slipped punches. He looks awkward though. He really does with his boxing style. But he was able to be able to slip some punches. Was able to get some shots in on Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is a brawler. I don't know how much of a great boxer he is, but he's a brawler. That is definitely what he is. And I would still like to see him and Anthony Joshua fight. I really don't have a pick on either one, but I think that would be entertaining as Joshua is a boxer. But anyway, let me go ahead and get this started. You know what I do. So on the other side of this music, we'll start the podcast. All right, there we go. Let's get it started right now. Let me go ahead and go quickly into what happened yesterday in the conference, the SEC conference. Georgia, again, had a lead on Alabama going into the fourth quarter. And again, they let it slip. One of the most curious calls of that game. I'm pretty sure it's going to be dissected by all these college football shows and things of that nature. But for Kirby Smart, 4th and 11, Justin, he's got the young quarterback, Fields in the game, and he tries to run a fake punt. And Alabama didn't even have their punt team on the field. They just left their defense on the field. So that's going to be a pretty curious that was a pretty curious call, but it's going to be interesting, the explanation that Kirby Smart gives for doing that at midfield at that. Kudos to a kid that didn't transfer. He stuck it out. He lost his job. Definitely to a better player. Tua is a much better quarterback as far as throwing the ball than Jalen Hurts. But Jalen Hurts came in. How ironic was that? It was Tua that replaced him last year against Georgia in that same stadium. But that game was for the national title. This game was for the SEC title, but Hurts comes off the bench, leads Alabama to 14 points in the fourth quarter, and Alabama, again, beats Georgia late. Also, going into the Clemson game, Clemson and Pittsburgh. Obviously, Clemson was the class of the ACC all season. That is nothing new. Again, that is one of the teams. This is a team that I picked to be in the college football playoff. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that Clemson and Alabama were clearly the best two teams in college football going into this season, and they proved that during the season. And then also, in my opinion, the Georgia Bulldogs should be in the playoff. I know they won't get there. I get it, the 2-loss thing or whatever, but they are clearly one of the 4 best teams in the country. Unfortunately for them, they slipped up against LSU, so they have 2 losses, and so they won't be the 4th team going into it. Notre Dame will be the 3rd team. Their season is over. They're independent. They don't play in conference championships yet until they join the ACC full time. That's another story for a later date. Anyway, Notre Dame will be the 3rd team. They're also undefeated. I think we're going to see a Clemson-Notre Dame matchup in Miami in one semifinal. And then the 4th team, I'm going to go ahead and just call this before they come out with this college football predictor thing. Before they announce who's playing in the for the 4 best teams and then get the +1 game for the national title. I'm going to go ahead and say it's Oklahoma. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be. Yes, they did lose earlier in the season in the rival game against Texas, but they avenged that loss yesterday with a 39-27 win. Great game for Kyler Murray. I'm going to also get into some other things in regards to the NBA also and the NFL. But also, let me just say real quick about Ohio State. Listen, they played against a gutsy Northwestern team. Northwestern is pretty decent. The Big Ten disappointed me this season, especially Michigan and what they did in that rivalry game at Ohio State to close out the season. Ohio State again with Urban Meyer at head coach. They had a tumultuous season heading into the season because of the off-the-field scandal with the former wide receiver coach, but they were able to still be the class of the Big Ten and win it all. It is what it is. They will not be in the playoff. I'm sorry. You lose to Purdue in the middle of the season. Although it was a road game, you only have one loss, but I just don't see why they would want to put Ohio State in there. So I think that the college football 4 will be, and I'm not saying nothing that's out of the box. I think everybody's going to go this route. I think Alabama will be 1. That game will be played, I think, in Jerry World. I think that game is going to be played in Jerry World. I'm not sure where the semifinal will be played, but I think it's going to be 1 versus 4. It's going to be Alabama versus Oklahoma. And then in the 2-3 matchup, which I know that semifinal is being played. There is a semifinal being played in Miami at Joe Robbie Stadium, but I think that will be Clemson and Notre Dame. Give you a quick my thoughts on that before, I'm going to do a podcast later on that'll be more a little bit more in-depth in my preview of what it is, but here's my quick analysis of what I think will happen with the college football playoff as I see it and what I predict. I think Alabama rolls all over Oklahoma. Oklahoma can't play defense. They can score, but they can't play defense. And in a very good game, I think, will be Clemson and Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame with Ian Book, they've been able to move the ball offensively. They got decent wide receivers. They got a talented running back. They have a solid offensive line. We're going to see how that offensive line holds up against arguably probably the best defensive line in football in Clemson, in college football anyway. So we're going to see how that holds up, but I think Clemson still pulls it out, and we get the Alabama and Clemson, I guess you could say, round 4. They've already played, they've already met, I think, almost 3 years in a row. This will be the 4th year, and I think that'll be the national title game out in California. All right, let me get to something I like to do. You know what it is. It's called Simply the Best. All right, I'm going to give a Simply the Best to Jalen Hurts. Came off that bench yesterday. I know he did not have an overwhelming stats. He threw for under 100 yards. He only ran for 28, but the most important of those 28 yards was that 15-yard scamper that gave Alabama the lead late in that ball game. Kudos to that kid. He did not hang his head. He did not quit. He did not pout. He just did what he needed to do. He got better. He actually looked better throwing the ball yesterday in his relief for Tua than at any time he looked in his previous starts. Kudos to that kid. I mean, in an age where these kids come to schools and if they don't get what they think they should get, they quit, they transfer, and they move on. That kid did not. He stuck it in, and look, hey, he got great redemption. I don't know if he'll be the starter, and I doubt he will be the starter in that bowl game against Oklahoma, but kudos to that kid. Also want to go ahead and give it out to Kyler Murray. 379 yards, 3 touchdowns. This kid is the best player in college football, in my opinion. I didn't think that going into the season. I did not know who he was, except for hearing stories about that he was a decent baseball player, that he's going to play football for 1 year. This kid is quick. He is fast. He is extremely accurate with his throws, as he proved yesterday against Texas. He's going to be awesome. I think he will be the Heisman Trophy winner. So I'm going to go ahead and just say that he will get I'm going to go ahead and give him a simply the best performance to Kyler Murray. All right, let me go ahead and turn my attention to the NFL. On Thursday night, the doggone Dallas Cowboys pulled the upset of the season. Really, the upset win and the upset of what they did on defense. They were able to hold the high-powered New Orleans Saints to 10 points. That was a big-time defensive performance by the Dallas Cowboys. Dexter Lawrence, he called it. He said that the Saints haven't seen a defensive line like them all season, and kudos to the Cowboys. I mean, great win on Thursday. Probably a very good game because simple fact is that neither one of these teams was coming off 4-day rest. They were actually coming off a week rest. They both played on Thanksgiving Day. So, hey, they got the week rest, and this was a very good football game for a Thursday game. They said it was the highest rated football game. Of course, anything with Dallas in it, and then you throwing in that the Saints are considered probably a Super Bowl contender. They are considered a Super Bowl contender. So, hey, it got interest. 13-10, pretty pedestrian game, but not lacking action. Let me just say that just wasn't a lot of scoring. All right, so we got some big games coming up today. We got the Minnesota Vikings getting ready to visit the New England Patriots. Hey, what can you say? Will the Patriots are definitely the class of the AFC East. Will they start to make that run towards as we turn the calendar as we are in December? Will they start to ramp up and start to get ready for the playoffs? They usually do this in every year. They get ready. But Minnesota, they still got a solid defense. Kirk Cousins. He's just, he came into the year not having a very good record as a starter, but he's a solid quarterback. He makes very few mistakes. I don't know. This is a tough call, but I'm going to go with the road team in this and think that the Minnesota Vikings pull the upset and beat the New England Patriots. All right, we got an awesome game between the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars stink. Blake Bortles is their quarterback. I say before the season started, this team will not go anywhere. That's why I did not pick them, because he's their quarterback. Kudos to Indy. They handed my Miami Dolphins an L when both teams came into that game at 5-5. So the Colts are trending towards the playoffs. Let's see what they do. I'm going to be very interested in see can the Colts go on the road to Jacksonville and pull that upset. And not say an upset. Well, can they get a win? Can they keep the momentum now? Andrew Luck looks good. He looks solid. So let's see if he can keep it up. I still think Jacksonville has a solid defense, but hey, that offense is atrocious. Again, Blake Bortles is their quarterback. Let me just go ahead and get this out the way. The Kareem Hunt being released by Kansas City due to some action that came out, or a video that came out showing that he pushed and shoved and threatened. Looked like a young lady. TMZ again did the same thing to him they did to Ray Rice. And again, these football players, I don't know what it is with the domestic thing. Reuben Foster was actually let go by the 49ers, picked up by Washington. That has been just really controversial. Nobody sees why this guy's even getting a fourth or fifth chance, of however many more chances that he gets. But he's not going to play this year. He's got to do the protocol. He's on the commissioner exempt list, which means basically you can't practice and you can't play until you take the steps under the commissioner's guidelines to get better. And I don't know how it goes, but anyway, he can't play. Kareem Hunt's on the commissioner exempt list. It's going to be interesting if he gets another shot. Ray Rice didn't get another shot because Ray Rice wasn't good. He was on the decline, so he wasn't worth the headache. This Kareem Hunt kid can play. He can play. I don't know. I think his absence is going to hurt Kansas City. That really knocks them down a peg. I know Mahomes is having a good year. I know Watkins is playing. I know they got Tyreek Hill. But Hunt is a major, major part of that team. And without him playing, man, it's going to be really interesting to see how Kansas City responds for the rest of the season. But again, the NFL had to do what they had to do. The video came out. Unfortunately for Kareem Hunt, it happened earlier in this year, and now it's just coming out. It's really crazy how that timing happened. But anyway, hopefully the young man can get himself together, get in the right programs, and I think he'll get another shot. Sad that he had to go. It went that way. I think alcohol might have had it. It looked like alcohol had a play in it, but that's unfortunate. That still makes no excuse for him doing what he did to that young lady. All right, let me turn my attention to the National Basketball Association. The Miami Heat last night were able to pull off a big-time win over the Anthony Davis-led Pelicans. Listen, the Heat are just going to be an average team this year. They play really hard. They're not very talented. They're limited in their talent. Let's just put it that way. But they're going to always play hard. That means they'll be in more games than they would be being instead of being blown out. Most games, they'll be in more games, but they just won't win a lot. They're not a championship contender in the Eastern Conference. The team that is the Raptors. Let's see how it goes with Kawhi Leonard. Does he stay if this team has great success and actually makes the NBA Finals? I don't know. Toronto looks good. They really do with him at the helm. He's a legitimate MVP performer. He's a legitimate two-way player. He is so much better than DeMar DeRozan. He's able to make the big shot. He makes big defensive stands. He's one of the 5 best players in the world in the NBA. So that gives Toronto a puncher's chance. I still like the Boston Celtics and what they have as far as their nucleus with Irving, Gordon Hayward, They still got Jason Tatum. Brown's going to come along, Rozier, Marcus Morris, and they still got Horford. So I still think the Celtics are the most talented roster in the Eastern Conference, but it's going to be very interesting to see what that playoff matchup, if it happens, between them and the Toronto Raptors. As far as anything else in the NBA, Steph Curry made his return back for the Golden State Warriors. Great. The Warriors are going to sleepwalk through the season. I mean, they're going to be basically playing for their, this is going to be the 5th straight finals trip they make this year. So, I mean, that's a lot of basketball. It's hard for these guys to be that interested. Steph Curry returned after the team struggled. In 11 games he was out. He struggled last night in the first half, got it going in the second half. They lost to Detroit, but hey, the regular season doesn't matter right now. Let's say when it turns towards the calendar after the All-Star break and it turns to March, that's when the NBA really, more people start to focus on it, of course, but that seems like when everything generates in as far as interest and the level of play really kicks up as they get ready for and amped up for the playoffs. But we'll see. We'll see, but I still say the Golden State Warriors are going to walk away with the NBA title this year. The Houston Rockets are nothing. They did what they had to do as far as the Carmelo Anthony situation. It was a bad fit from the beginning, and give them credit for realizing that, hey, we don't have to go with this experiment all year long. So they got rid of him. What the former number 6 is doing out in LA is really non-existent. It's not important. It has no factor except for the fact that he plays in LA. LA's a marquee franchise, and they're going to get a lot of attention from the media. But other than that, the Lakers aren't going anywhere. Will they make the playoffs? Probably, as a 6 or 7 or 8 seed, but they're not going to be a threat for a championship, not with that current roster that they have. Let me see. Who else can I look at? Oh, quickly, Philly. Jimmy Butler going to Philadelphia. That's going to be very interesting how that works with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Jimmy Butler. Now, they could make themselves a pest in the Eastern Conference. We'll see how that plays out in the season. But Jimmy Butler is a very solid player. He's an all-star. Good trade for Philly. Even though they gave up Zaric and Covington, but still, that's a solid trade for Philly. And we're going to see how that plays out. So, but I think the Philadelphia 76ers just made it 3 top teams in the Eastern Conference with themselves, the Raptors and the Celtics. But we'll see how that goes as the season plays on. All right, that's the band. That's my time. It is time for me to get up out of here. I really appreciate everyone for taking the time to download and listen to my podcast, Will's Take on Sports. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WWS_Sports Show. And also on Facebook, Will's Take. Just type in Will's Take on Sports, and it will take you to my Facebook page. Please like us. You also will get like the show and with the like button. And you will get instant updates on when a new podcast comes out. I know I haven't been really consistent with it, but hey, my work schedule is crazy. So, and this is not my real job. This is just all strictly for fun. But again, I want to say thank you so much, you guys, for listening to the podcast. We're available on the Stitcher app. We're available on iTunes. We are available on iHeartRadio. You name it, tune in, you name it. You can pretty much catch us anywhere, or catch my podcast anywhere. Thank you guys so much for everything, downloading and listening and hanging in there and still wanting me to do new podcasts. I really appreciate all the love and attention. And if you have any comments that you would like to make, just simply email me at willwalkershow@yahoo.com. Thank you for all the positive emails, and even those not so positive, I just appreciate that you still listen and download to my show. Listen, say a prayer for somebody, because prayer changes things. I holla.